All right, you're asking for it, so here it is. Listen to this.
I want you folks laughing at we partners pod, kid. You understand? We in here drinking, singing, swinging, all that shit, dog. We sweating, getting wet, and all that.
Welcome to the 136th episode of the Drinking Partners Podcast. I know you listeners out there are thinking, hey, this is the bus episode, the Jerome Bettis, but hell no, I'm still from Cleveland, so I can't do that. This is the Rasheed Wallace episode because he's one of my favorite basketball players, one of my favorite NBA players, and he reminds me of Dave Bracey a lot with the technical fouls that he used to receive all the fucking time. Just saying curse words for no reason, yelling at referees. Had a beard. Yeah, go Rasheed, man. We didn't get Rasheed Wallace in the Hall of Fame strictly off text alone. He'll be the first person inducted to the NBA Hall of Fame just off his technical fouls. I am happy hosting Tandem Ed Bailey. I'm joined as always with my co-host Dave Bracey. Say what up to the people.
What's good with you people? We are Drinking Partners, and if you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, and Google Play under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at Partners Pod. 136 episodes, we've been asking you, and we're going to continue to ask you, man. Please hop on iTunes, rate and review. That's how we know we're doing well. That's how we let others know that we're doing well, and that's how we continue to do well. So please hop on iTunes, rate and review.
You love us, you see us in public, you tell us you love us. Now at the clickable button, just tell the internet, tell the world. And as always, in lieu of rates and reviews, and this will be forever withstanding whether this podcast ends or not. You see me a day in the street and you like us as a person, we will accept shots of Hennessy in lieu of rates and reviews. Shout out to Car Guy DJ and the Conways.
True.
That was dope.
That was, man. When it actually happened, I was like, this is crazy.
Anytime it really happens, it does feel really good. So please do that. Do both. Rate and review and then rate and review our reaction to the shot of Hennessy that we take in your presence.
Yeah, I figure 136 episodes. Maybe that's worth a shot.
It's worth it.
Shot, Hey, yo, man, if you're listening, you're like, man, those dudes sound super smooth right now. Well, that's courtesy of Epicast, man. They keep us, they keep us sounding, amazing. And if you're looking to get your podcast to sound better, maybe you want to start your own podcast or need help promoting an event, or maybe you want to advertise your product on an award-winning podcast, such as this one, best in the city.
We're trying to go back to back.
Back to back, go over to epicastnetwork.com/services, fill out the form, and tell them that the Drinking Partners sent you.
Help us make our quota.
True.
We got to make these numbers. We need these referral credits. Tell them we sent you because we're sendable now. We can send you somewhere. Feels good. We actually just had a discussion about sending people places.
Yeah.
Tell them that the Drinking Partners sent you to Epicast, but don't go in the bars telling them we sent you.
No, definitely go into a bar and tell them we sent you. Because we'll be there next.
Depending on how you want to act that night. What type of night is it for you?
Yeah, don't tell them we getting you in that motherfucker. Tell them we sent you to that motherfucker. Those are two different things. Like, we are not co-signing the VIP. Like.
Exactly. Facts. We got some things coming up.
Well, we got Hilltoppers coming up.
Hilltoppers.
That's September 22nd. It's a free festival at Grandview Park featuring the cool kids, PK Delay, Pet Zebra, Creatives Drinks, and Give Camp. So, check that out, September 22nd. Hilltopolis is an outdoor festival highlighting social innovation through music and activism. National acts with breakout local artists in an unforgettable setting to benefit Pittsburgh nonprofits, man. So that's, that's charity. That's a good time. And it's a free event.
Free damn good time.
I don't understand. I don't know what else you're doing that day that's better than free fun, free charitable fun.
Yeah, you got Creatives Drink. You already know how they get down. You got PK Delay in the building. That's just local. You got cool kids coming in. You got good music, good view of the city.
That view is one of the best, hands down, in the city.
Oh, hell yeah. Come through and bring your drones. If you got a drone, let a drone fly. I just want a bunch of drones flying through that motherfucker.
True. True.
We got Comtra September
29th and 30th. We got Comtra. We got Rob Cantrell coming through. You've seen him on Comedy Central, and he's got some specials out there. And he'll be down here September 29th and the 30th. It's a whole weekend. So check that out. If you're looking for tickets, that's comtratheater.ticketleap.com.
As always, one of the better shows in the city, if not the best, and we're still giving you liquor. So we're bringing people in, we're bringing you, sponsors. It's a good time, man, and it's cheap.
Yeah, it's BYOB, and we got Helicon, one of the sponsors, are coming through with the Germans.
Which at this time is wildly appropriate.
Yeah, they coming through with the Germans on Saturday night. And then we got North Country Brewing on Friday night. They'll be coming through, over there in the North Hills. So, check them out. We got BYOB, free booze, and, nationally touring acts. Like I said, we got Rob Cantrell coming in. So, check out his specials, do your Googles, and then come through and have a beer with him.
Yeah, come through, man. We appreciate that, and we appreciate our guests who came through with us today. It's gonna be this is a repeat guest. Now, we had him on episode 70, but we love him so much we brought him back. He's actually one of my favorites, one of my better friends in the comedy community here in the city. We have, and now he has his own show, the Mike Sasson Show. We had Mike Sasson in the building. Say what up to the people.
Word up to the people. I always, whenever that happens, I just always want to sound like the most Caucasian man on the planet
You
Earth.
did sound super Caucasian because you said word up. And nobody said word up since
And exactly
House Party.
why I did it. Here's why. So one time, we'll get into it because one time I was obviously played college football. I had my roommate, Tavar Kloss, and African-American gentleman from Hartford, Connecticut. I was the 18-year-old pudgy white kid from Fox Chapel Area High School, so I had no knowledge of black people. So I was sitting there, and I just wanted to fuck with them a little bit. So he brought a bunch of teammates in there. They're all watching TV in the hotel before a game, like a Friday night before we were like on the road on Saturday. And a phone rings, and it's like another teammate. He's like, says, "Yo, is T there? Yo, T Kloss there?" And I just go, "T Kloss. Are you here? Are you here for him?" And he just goes, "Yo, why are you acting like that?" I'm just like, "He is currently not available. Is there anything that you could possibly..." It's like, who the fuck is this? Did he get an answering service? What is this shit? And
that would be super swag if he did. That would be like some shit from the movie The Program, where the black star player gets the white player to be like his answering service. Like, you screen all my calls, offensive lineman.
Yeah. I dated a girl from England, and I definitely had her record my voicemail. That shit sounded super legit.
Damn.
An accent will get you. It is an unfair advantage if you're trying to get in a bar. If a man with an English accent or an Irish accent comes in,
it's an unfair advantage if you do anything in life with an accent. Like I was talking to the girl at the bar, and she had the English accent. She was like, "This shit is too easy. Y'all don't even care what I say. You just eat it up. I could date whoever I want. I can get whatever job I want. Like you guys could be the most hickish English motherfucker on the planet." But
well, okay. First off, we get the English people that like are the like educated ones, not the ones that sound like Noel Gallagher of like Oasis and shit like that. Those ones you don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. Those are like the Yinzers of fucking England. Those are those people. They don't get over here. We won't allow them.
Like the Pikeys and shit.
Yeah, those people. Yeah. Those people wouldn't get laid.
We talked about this with Mindful, episode 129. We talked about Marcus and how he took advantage of his accent. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he does sound educated, but he has an edge to him. He makes beer. So we get those too. Yeah. We get those too, making some good stouts and all that shit. So that's what's up. I really appreciate that you did that, Tim. Where's T Claus? Like,
where'd he go? Yeah. Where is he right now? I believe
I'm looking out for you because I don't know if his name should be dropped. If he gets like, I don't know what it's like in Hartford. Like, it sounds like it's a cushy place, but then you got Aaron Hernandez from down there.
Oh, Bristol, who initially committed to the University of Connecticut. Yeah, because his brother DJ was a quarterback there, and his dad played at UConn.
Yeah, my whole perception of Connecticut is all fucked up. Right
Connecticut is essentially it's all suburbs except for 4 of the roughest cities in America: Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven, and like one other one I'm forgetting, but everything else is just like, it's insane. Like Bridgeport, Connecticut is just like a giant, just like, holy shit, get the fuck out of here city. But then like you drive another mile and then you're in the middle of like, you know, palatial digs of like hedge fund managers and stuff. It's a weird place. But Tavar actually was a teammate of mine, good man. I believe he's up in Connecticut. He actually eventually actually worked with the basketball program in the academic part. So yeah, good man. But he eventually graduated and all that kind of stuff. Actually played a little bit with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, damn.
He played with Marcus Camby at Hartford Public High School basketball. And this is just the kind of athlete he was. He was actually out for like a week in spring practice. And he was such an amazing athlete. He was outside of the coach's offices. There was like a public like basketball court. And he was like windmill dunking, tomahawk slam. He's like 6'5", 330 pounds. And he was like doing all this, like all this shit, like just bam. And the coaches were like, wait, if you're going to be windmill dunking, don't do it in front of the coach's offices when you're supposed to be hurt. But that was the kind of guy he was. Just an incredible athlete.
I've never been around a 6'5", 330-pound human. Like, what is that? What?
Yes, and dunking, like, incredible. Just like an incredible athlete. Maybe an interesting thing that's happened to me this past summer. My third offensive lineman that I coached when I was a coach in middle school and high school eventually got to the NFL. Adam Bisnavati, who's now played at Pitt, who's now with the New York Giants. I coached him at Fox Chapel. So I had 3 players that eventually went and played a little in the NFL. Miles Diefenbach, who went to Penn State, went with the Steelers. A guy who's now with the Baltimore Ravens, Matt Skura, who I coached, who eventually moved to Ohio and then went to Duke, is with the Baltimore Ravens. And then Adam, who's with the New York Giants, went to Pitt. I love all 3 of those kids, but compared to Tavar Kloss, no. He was an incredible athlete, Tavar was.
Well, hold on. How the fuck? Why you not? You should have like a firm. You should have a firm like, yo, I could take your kid and get him to the next. You should be the John Calipari of offensive linemen. That's what you should be like. Nah, do I want him to get his degree? No, but I will get him to the promised land.
All 3 did get their degrees, though.
Well, all right, yeah, but who gives a fuck? They got the NFL. They got professional.
Like, no, it was an unbelievable honor, and obviously, I mean, like I know Miles since he was in elementary school. I knew Brian obviously coached him through 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then Brian was his brother. Matt, I've known for 3 years, and then Adam, I met him in 8th grade when Central Catholic was trying to recruit him to not go to Fox Chapel and go to Central. So I literally went into the bowels of Dorseyville Middle School and had to recruit my own kid to stay there, and literally texted him every day saying, hey, you should come here. We're going to do this great thing, all this kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, stay in school, kids. Don't listen to Ed Bailey.
We can stay in school and still go to the NFL.
Look, first of all, if you've gone to college, you stayed in school. Like, if you've gone to college, you stayed those Dare commercials and all that shit. That was through high school.
Go and get that little bit of paper. I mean, while you there.
The stay in school has a 12th grade maximum. All right, everything beyond that, you've met our requirements with stay in school.
Do you feel bad sometimes when a guy comes up to you and you sit there and go, "Oh, where'd you go to school?" And you'll be like, "Oh, University of Connecticut," and then I'll sit there and be like, "No, I meant high school," and you're just like, "Oh, I didn't mean to like."
Yeah. Aim low. Well, it's different because to me now it seems like, I don't know when this transition took place, but I saw where it's like everybody goes to college now. Like, it almost feels like everyone goes to college.
Not everybody goes to college.
Well, no, not everybody, but
it's still not a lot. I mean, and when you say college, there's a lot of people maybe going to some sort of secondary schooling. You know what I mean, like post-secondary schooling. You know what I mean, like teasing with it or whatever. But I mean, the vast majority of people aren't going to college.
Well, here's what it is though, because you no longer just go right into that union job. Like, you don't go and just, like, for example, my parents, they went directly to the post office. You don't do that anymore. So a lot of people do pursue, a secondary degree.
Well, yeah, they should.
When I graduated high school, it seemed like not everybody, but it seemed like a large number of us went to college. Like, and you could kind of say, you could look at it and be like, oh, he went to this college. Maybe he wasn't as serious or something like that, but they went to fucking college.
Yeah.
And like, people are maturing. People are going and pursuing education. Just be smart about it.
I will say this though. I mean, right now with how expensive college is, if you come up to me and you sit there and say, hey, I'm going to learn to weld, I'm going to go to a secondary school and learn how to be a plumber or an electrician, good for you.
Yeah,
that'll you'll crush it if you learn a skill like that.
I think that you should, in any capacity, pursue, post-secondary education. I just don't think that a lot of people have the opportunity to do so. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I believe that it's something you should do. I think we should all have access for that. And if you do have access to it, you damn sure should, even if you don't use that degree or whatever. I think the experience of having that, the things that you learn, the skills that you learn while you're in a post-secondary atmosphere is something that's very valuable too.
Yeah, I mean, you learn to complete a skill, complete a task, all this other kind of stuff, and obviously it looks better on a resume than if you have
the
nothing.
Social aspect, the networking aspect. I mean, there's a lot of specialization or whatever. But again, what I think is, a large majority of the people don't have that access to it, and that's what I think. Everybody wants to go to college, but I don't think everybody's going to college.
Well, and then you talk about the NFL and everything like that. The one thing I will tell about all three of those guys was one's 6'5", the other one's 6'4", the other one's 6'6". So this idea that okay, I'm going to give, even if I did went up and I wanted to, and people have talked to me about go on Craigslist and say, if you've got a kid, I can help him out and all this kind of stuff. If I meet the kid and he's 6'1", 230 pounds, and he's a junior in high school and he's playing offensive guard, sorry, I cannot call up Pat Narduzzi and say that, I got your next offensive guard. Yeah. It's just not going to work. Literally, Adam Bisnavati got a scholarship offer from Pitt without them seeing him play.
He was just baseball. It's kind of like when a bouncer gets a job at a bar.
Yeah. Greg Cattuso.
Anything about his thug, but
Greg Cattuso was sitting in the top recruiter for Pitt for Western Pennsylvania at the time under Dave Wanstatt, was sitting in our coach's office. We're shooting the shit because he wanted to recruit Miles, who eventually went to Penn State. He's sitting there and we're saying, hey, we got a kid. He's going to be a sophomore this year. You should meet him. He's a guy you're going to be interested in. We bring Adam in. Adam at the time was probably about 6'5", about 260 pounds.
What you mean at the time? How the fuck you grow past that?
Well, now he's 6'6", 325. So he wasn't that in, But at the time, he was 6'5", about 260. He walks in, shakes the man's hand. He comes out. Greg Cattuso points at the door and goes, we're offering that kid a scholarship.
Fuck yeah.
But the point is the fact that I could tell you what I told those kids. I could show you the skill, but if you're 5'11" and you're 185 pounds, you're not going to go to the NFL as an offensive tackle. Yeah. So
keep at it, youngster. Maybe you'll be some Muggsy Bogues type breakout talent, but right now,
pimp the program.
Stay in school.
That's what we should. We need to come up with a series of podcasts or some live events where we call it Pimp the Program. We bring people in like Mike Sasson who could get your kid into college, show you how to pimp the program where you get a free degree. And if you go on to the NFL, the NBA, or MLS, or NHL, fine, but at least you got that degree.
I think Pimp the Program is be genetically 6'5", 230 pounds in in sixth grade.
Not everybody. Listen, not everybody gonna be that big. Not everybody. You see, pimping the program, you don't have to be D1. The thing about athletes that I've seen in college athletics is, if you are faithful to the program or to the sport or to the culture, you'll find a way to find a job. I got a buddy, McNutt. He was on Ohio State's football team when they won the championship against Miami. I don't think he saw the field at all, but he's parlayed that into coaching gigs and things like that throughout.
I mean, if you want to walk on to Penn State or Ohio State or Pitt or whatever like that, you're going to think about walk on. When you become a walk on at one of these programs, the coaches and the players treat you well, and there's a lot of those guys that eventually become financial planners. And guess what? You've got, the
clientele.
You got
right
the clientele right in front of you.
Motherfucker, I was swiping your student ID for your meals. Now I can, flip your money now.
How many? When you sit there and you look at the NFL or NBA, how many of those guys who in their quote unquote posse or whatever the quote unquote the group of the people were kids they grew up with?
Well, first of all, the fact that you use the term posse also, that further cements that you're white.
Yes. I make no bones about that. I am a large white man. Absolutely. So I'm actually going to throw in the word posse 3 more times in this album.
But
you got a posse count.
I guess the takeaway from that is you got to find your own way. Find your way. Use whatever advantages or whatever connections you can have. And college does help with that, with using connections, and you create more connections there. I think the value in college is beyond the textbooks. Like, the textbooks are bullshit because a lot of the professors are using their influence to write the textbook, so the university has to buy their textbook so they can use it for their class. Don't let me get into that. But let me
I've heard so many people sit there and say the point of going to Harvard or Stanford is not necessarily that the education is so great. It's that down the hall, the guy who's going to invent the next Google or the guy who's going to invent the next Facebook is going to be your drinking buddy.
Exactly.
That's the number one value in going to Harvard
or your drinking partner. Come on, next Google guy. Come sit on the couch.
What I really learned in college. Like, I mean, I did a lot of classes, but my greatest skill was my networking.
Were you at IUP when the guy was the YouTube guy?
Yeah, and he never fucking shuts the fuck up about it. And man, that dude is super weird and annoying. This motherfucker, he came to a party that I had thrown. Like, it was like my last year, and like, he came to a couple of parties, just, kind of weird dude, just And
by the way, this man invented YouTube.
And I didn't even know this about him at this point.
Wait a minute, the dude who invented YouTube
he didn't invent YouTube.
And y'all don't.
Well, he was part of the group.
Part sort of a group, or that's his story. It's whatever his story is.
The man's worth a lot of money right now.
He's not worth a lot of money right now.
Yeah, he is.
No, he is. Is he?
Yeah, I mean, he's not like he's not like sucking dick for quarters at the bus station.
He might be sucking dick for quarters at the bus station.
I mean, just for fun, but I mean, not for like rent money.
Hey, Buzzy, have we removed all our content from YouTube, or do we need to stop this conversation?
No, this motherfucker. I would like I said, I saw him at a couple of parties. Yeah, I mean, like, and that was about it. I ran into him a few years, after college or whatever, and he's like, hey, Day, da da da, and I'm like, yeah, I do remember, you hung out with some folks that I knew, and then he just kept going on like about this YouTube. I invented YouTube, and I was like, what the fuck? And then like ever since then, he found me on all the social networks, and then just tagged me at least once or twice a week, like, hey, I invented YouTube. I'm trying to fight for my rights. Like, I mean, Eric Skaggs, exactly. He's still trying to fight for his money. I don't think he's rich because he's still like, I invented YouTube. I need my money.
What's his name?
If
Eric Skaggs.
If you're at a bar. If you're at a bar with Dave Bracey telling him you invented YouTube, you're not going to get that money.
No, exactly.
You're not about to get that money, fam. Like, they're not going to take that conversation and read it in court. Like, we want to bring to Your Honor, we want to present evidence.
Listen to this
conversation with drinking partner Dave Bracey.
He claims that he gave the guy who did invent YouTube the idea.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What aspects of the idea? Let people post their video? Like, what?
He was the first dude I ever blocked online because he just was annoyed, like, just constant, like, hey, I invented YouTube. Like,
he wrote a book called "I Invented YouTube."
He sold 12 copies.
Let me tell you something.
Himself.
That's you will only meet that type of nigga in college. That's an opportunist. That's the dude who saw. Okay, we're laughing at it, but that motherfucker got a book deal somehow. Like,
I Invented YouTube is the story of how Eric Skaggs gave Chad Hurley the idea for YouTube, from a domain name to exit strategy and everything else in between, except exchange for a promise of $1.65 billion. Promise.
He is not balling out of control right now.
Fam,
His balling.
Go have a seat. Go have your ass a royal seat. Who the fuck sit in a room like, yo, bro, I'm gonna give you $1.6 billion. Help me figure this out. Help me figure this out in 1998 or whatever the fuck YouTube came out.
He had to hustle him up to 1.6. He started out at a cool 1 billion. So I'll give you 1 billion.
I'm not helping you with shit if it's just 1.2.
He's like, no, sir. No, sir.
You walk in,
do you consider me a fool?
You walk into the room with 94 IUP credits. You're asking the price? It's 1.6 billion?
And then he has to write a book about how he got fucked.
Children, believe in yourself. You can listen, any college credit. You can walk in and ask somebody for 1.65 billion.
1.6.
Give me once. Yo, I got.
And not a mil less.
I wonder what the pitch was. He was like, yo, if you make this, dudes in Philly are going to be rapping against each other on street corners. It's going to touch everybody, all right? YouTube's going to be the shit. Wow.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this.
Shout out to Eric Skaggs.
If your last name is Skaggs, like, ain't nobody going to believe you. His last name is Skaggs.
You couldn't afford a name change.
Do you listen, normally when you hear someone's last name, you can almost trace the origin. Skaggs just sounds poor. Like
your people grew up on rocks somewhere.
They farmed rocks. They grew bigger rocks.
You one of them dudes at Game of Thrones that got that be bringing coal into the castle. You don't have no fucking clout in the castle. You just come in with coal.
They like the Greyjoys out in the growing up on the rocks with just shitty ass weather.
Shit. I heard the worst last name in the history of last names recently. Okay, I got my new gig and I'm taking the name. I can't say the company, but you know that you take, like, one of the things is you have to learn the maiden name of the person who is applying for this thing. Okay. So I say, and just to make it so I don't have to pronounce it or anything like that, I go, spell the last name of your mother's maiden name. This is no bullshit what she said. Rape.
Ooh.
Oh, shit.
That is the worst last name.
Is it Rape?
No,
It's not Rape?
No, it's not Rape. That's the worst last name
I was just
ever.
I would just throw another P in that bitch. Like, or an E.
Rapper?
Or an A. I would just throw
change
an extra letter in that bitch somewhere.
You know
and
your
that would
last
be it.
name is fucked up when you will change it to rapper. And it's better.
Well, you would have to put another P and on it.
Or Ratman.
Something, man.
I'll just be like McLovin from Superbad. I would just go with my first name. Anna. Like, what's your last name? No, Anna.
I'm Madonna. I'm Gandhi.
Damn.
Yeah, that is tragic.
That woman must have gotten married when she was 11 just to get a new name.
Oh, fuck.
I'm not marrying her. Do you listen? What if you go to a party, go to a concert, and you lose your wife, and you just in the middle of the concert, you go, rape. What are you?
Well, how about if they're great athletes and they'll be like, man, we haven't had a good football team since there've been no rapes in this school.
Yo, who's marrying that dude though? Like, that's the thing. Some unfortunate woman, because his dad is and his mom is Mrs.
Rape.
So
He's Mr. Rape.
yes,
Damn.
And his mom's name is Mrs.
Or he's a doctor and he's Dr. Rape.
Well, what's worse, being Mr. or Mrs. Rape?
I mean, well, I because here's the thing, right? And now, so it's tragic for him because he has to, have this name. He's born into it. But then it's kind of weird for her because I'm thinking about her like, well, you could choose anybody you wanted in life.
Just keep your
and
maiden name.
You chose this guy.
Yeah.
And you chose to take the last name. Like, that is, I don't know. What's good with you, though?
I think being Mr. Rape is okay. Being Mrs. Rape, you could at least get a little bit of sympathy. Like, if you're the face of rape from that perspective, it's bad. If you're Mr. Rape, it's all bad.
Yes.
Nobody sympathizes
Yes.
with you. You're Mr. Rape.
Apparently someone did. Mrs.
Wow. God, that's
That's the worst last name I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I can't go
I'm sorry.
past that.
Yeah, I'm sorry you guys exist.
I'm sorry. So did they.
So
And didn't figure out how to just throw them in. You know how many people just lie about their last name and just make it a thing? If you keep lying about your last name.
no, that shows up on their credit report.
that would have been.
Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, they all got rape in it.
Imagine being on the cusp of like good and bad credit, and then like they run your shit. Like you just had that extra P in there, and they're like, Robert, and then you run and
right.
it's like, oh shit. Like,
Right on the numerical threshold for what they need to approve this, and you're
yeah.
like, damn. We can't have rape in our portfolio.
I don't think you can use your last name if you want to open up that child daycare center.
Oh yeah, no. You definitely ain't gonna be a politician. You find yourself in Trump's cabinet.
Trump would accept you. Trump would accept you.
So let me ask you this. Now, you have obviously this background in athletics, and you worked in the educational system, working with Fox Chapel School District. What are the parallels between that and doing comedy?
I think nothing is more similar to athletics than stand-up comedy. Because in my life, you sit there, your set is like your game plan. Okay. And the ball gets kicked off, and you have a game plan, but you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And you have to be, eventually ready to change the game plan, move it. I mean, you don't know if, okay, and then we talk about it all the time. We do a show together. We sit there, how's the audience? What's here? What's this group? It's the same thing if we go out there on the field and you say, okay, is it a soft field? Is it a turf field? Are we in a dome? Is it, is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it hot? Is it, all this other kind of stuff. It's the same thing when you do athletics.
And it is a team sport because we're talking to each other in the back.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, we're gauging the crowd. Hey, so-and-so, da-da-da-da-da. Like, maybe, the coaching aspect, of that. Like, and I guess at least in the Pittsburgh scene, I've had, I can't speak for all scenes. But we definitely do.
Well, and that's why the toughest job of the three, because typically there's an MC, there's a feature, and there's a headliner. The MC has got the toughest job because a lot of times your job is to gauge and figure all this stuff out for the MC and the headliner.
Yeah.
I would disagree. I would say the first act is toughest because the MC has the bail card. You got the all right. So you ready for your first comedian?
Yeah.
Well, you won't be the MC for long if you're
be
known
the MC that night.
It depends.
You got to do your time though, Dave.
You got to do your time.
I'm starting to develop into like the MC role or whatever.
Yeah.
But as an MC, I appreciate the actual comics on the show more because that's more pressure. As an MC, I'm what? I don't need to be the funniest. I just need to know my shit. I need to know how to get up there, maybe warm them up, just be likable, and then bring on the next, and then if it is a cold crowd, then to bring them up in between sets or whatever, but not be the center of attention.
The three roles I have found the easiest is the feature because again, you're not the first person. You get a little bit of time to stretch out.
Yeah.
And you're not the reason why they showed up. So if you're not tremendous, the headliner can still pick you up. Headlining, I found, is easier. It's just because, I could put something in there. If it doesn't work, I've still got another 20 minutes, another 40 minutes to get back the audience. When you're the MC, 90% of the time they're sitting down, they're not listening to you, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
If you get up and you're starting to do your set, if something fails, you only have 5 to 10 minutes, so you can't gain them back. So you're trying to do your best stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's why of the three roles in my book, MC is the toughest, and then on top of that, you're getting paid the least.
I'd say it depends on the type of show. If I'm emceeing our show at Contra Theater or down at Bricolage, emceeing is extremely easy. I go up, I'll tell maybe a couple of jokes, but I really can just do crowd work, talk about our sponsors, kind of get people hype into the idea of the night and that they're going to have fun. Now, if I'm emceeing at the Improv, not only am I the first person who goes on who has to get them hype, but I'm also doing an actual set.
Yes.
I'm doing a real set. You ain't going up at the Improv emceeing for, Tony Rock or John Witherspoon, just going up there being off the cuff. Yeah, I don't have any affiliation to the club. So I'm going up there this is like an audition, but these people they're still, having their tickets checked, still getting into their seats.
That's what I'm saying. It's a tough.
The waiters and waitresses are running around it's tough as shit.
And also the other thing you got to consider is that, and this is something that I didn't understand until I started doing stand-up comedy, is how many people have no idea about what real stand-up comedy is. And so you are the first person that they have maybe ever seen live do stand-up comedy. Yeah. And so by the time the headliner comes on, first off, especially if it's a known headliner, you're going to get the, oh crap, that's the guy I saw on TV type stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, but if you're the first person, they're assuming that they're going to see The Tonight Show. They're going to see, Comedy Central. They're going to see this type of thing. And all of a sudden they see live, someone realizes they're not supposed to talk. That's before someone gets thrown out because they're drunk and they're the people yelling and all this other kind of stuff. And so now, granted, you do have kind of the fallback of you're like the bread of the meal. If no one sits there, the bread has never ruined a meal. If the appetizer and then the feature course were great and the bread was stale, typically it doesn't ruin the meal. So you don't have that pressure. But in terms of being a comic, I want time to stretch my legs. I want time to come back if I say something that that the room wasn't cool with, and obviously I want to get paid the most. So that's why of the 3 roles, I would say
wanna kill.
MCs. Yeah.
Every time I'm on stage, I want
Yes,
to kill.
I understand, but that's why I'm saying the toughest to kill is the MC.
Yeah, the toughest to kill is the MC. I look at the 2 hardest. I mean, I would say the MC and the first up, and it depends on how the MC is. If your MC is terrible, being first up is fucking horrible, because now you have a room that doesn't fucking give a fuck about they think you're going to be shitty. You're the first guy up or whatever, and then you have to do that all. What you basically got to do the MC's job.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when you get up there.
Me and Ed have talked about this a lot, that I respect you in the way that you and me are both in the same way, that we want to walk into a hot room.
Yeah.
There are too many comics that I've met that even book weaker comics because they want, when they walk, I don't understand it either, but they walk in, they want the room. If the person before them bombs, they almost like it better than if they walk in and they got to step up.
They want to be
I hate that
MVP.
shit.
Yeah.
And you can be the Russell Westbrook of the shit, or you can be KD and hoist that trophy.
Yeah.
And fuck KD, because I'm still, what I mean? Like, I'm still from Cleveland. Like, but I respect that decision in the sense that, all right, look, man, if I'm doing a show, it would be easier for me to be a part of a great show than for me to be remembered as the standout of a poor show.
Yeah.
And to get back to athletics, that would be like similar saying, oh, would I like it if my defense was great? Or do I want my offense to be the star of everything and I have to win the game 47-32 every game because my defense sucks? I'd rather have a great defense so that as an offense, I am part of a great team, as opposed to being just the greatest thing ever because no one else on the show can actually, or no one else on the team can actually carry their weight.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that you got to look at the overall experience of the person that came to that, right? Mm-hmm. And like, everybody should look at this as if we want to keep comedy fans into comedy. So if they're going and they come to a show and there was only 1 or 2 people that they liked and the rest of it was they're gonna go away thinking like, it was cool, like I like that one person, but like comedy in general, whatever. But if every fucking person on that stage is hot, or even like, like you have a hot rise and the main dude, the headliner isn't as hot but still has a great set or whatever, now they're coming out like comedy is fucking great. Like, I had a great you should definitely, whatever establishment that is, whoever was there, like if you ever get to see comedy in this vicinity, you should definitely go out. That's the difference between a one person show and a whole team that's hot.
Now, are you concerned ever if there's other people on the show that you feel are too similar to you?
No, ain't nobody like me.
Well, that's my point too. But I mean, like, I've known of comics who are very kind of iffy about like, oh, well, I'm energy, he's energy. I don't know if I want energy, or who he's mellow and I'm mellow. I don't want to follow that. Oh, there's 2 female comics. Maybe there's too many, blah, 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 all this other kind of bullshit. I don't like that. You are a singular entity. It is your job when you get your 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever. It is your job to kill. I don't care if the audience is anything. Yes, it makes it tougher, but if you are a good comic and you know what you're doing, you should be able to, again, like athletics, adjust and win the game.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
And like, I feel like when I produce a show, I want to put a variety of comics on. I mean, and I want to put it, and I want to make the experience flow. Right, so I'm gonna look for like varying comics to put in there, as opposed to comics that might have a similar style. But as a comedian, I can go into any show, and it doesn't matter who's there. I'm gonna do my shit because I still don't even know what I am. You know what I mean? As a comedian, like people are like, oh, you kind of remind me of this or that or whatever. Like, but for me, I'm like, I'm just gonna go up there and be myself, and it doesn't matter who's doing what. I'm still going to do what I do. You know what I mean? So, there's so like, I don't worry about like the similarities as a comedian, but as a producer, I would like to have a show of variety so that people come and get a bit of a taste of different folks and don't think that they're going to come and get that one thing. Oh, this is what comedy is. It's like, nah, there's, Well,
I mean, and this comes back even to a larger socio issue in terms of whenever you get to the word diversity. People, most people believe that diversity is a good thing and it helps. And then you got the assholes who sit there and say, no, diversity, why you just put the best, don't care, whatever. But you're right. As a producer, you sat there and I remember I produced the What a Joke here in Pittsburgh, for the ACLU. And I wanted to sit there and say, okay, I want a large spectrum. I want older comics, younger comics, female comics, gay comics, trans, whatever, every type of comic that I can get. And we had a 2-hour show. And the one thing that I was worried about was 2 hours is a long time for a show. And 10 minutes, I don't want the last comics to be. But because it was so diverse and every 10 minutes you saw a new type of comic and a new perspective and new everything like that, there was no drop off. Everything worked, everything like that. And I think for a larger socio issue of just like, why is diversity better, is because if you get everybody in the room from different perspectives, respecting each other's different perspectives, then that raises the game of everything, as opposed to just saying, nope, we're just gonna do everything.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yes, you said what I said in 5 minutes and 1 second.
Yeah, like that really, like and that's what I've noticed, is that like people, like especially the comedy community, they want to hear different perspectives. You know what I mean? Like, and our shows aren't like, oh well, we're just gonna, because we have a different, like, woman, we're minorities, there's gays. I mean, we try to have a very diverse show, but it's not just for the aspect of, oh, we need this diversity on the poster.
No, we need this on the poster. No, it's because it makes it a better show.
It makes it a great fucking show. People come and they're walking out and they're like, oh my God, I love this and like I love that or whatever. You know what I mean? And like, you get these people that haven't spoken to each other outside of this realm before they came in here. Like, they have never had much interaction or even that introduction to somebody else's point of view, and then they see that and then they're like, oh shit, like I feel like not only did I have a great time, but I also got some shit that I didn't expect.
Yes. And you know who enjoys that? Me and my posse. See, too.
Bruh, you gonna kill all our African American listenership. So let's talk about the Mike Sasson show. Like, how did that come about? So you clearly have the voice for radio. If you've been listening to this podcast, you clearly have that. You've worked in radio. But the show, it's not a podcast. It's not a radio show. It's got a visual component to it. You can get it offline, but what is that even called now? Like, it's just called a show? It's not a podcast.
Well, I mean, the way I view it is, it starts off as an internet radio show and a Facebook live show. That's what it starts at. Then it morphs into a podcast, because we obviously, we put it on, the iTunes, the SoundCloud, the Google Plays, all that kind of good stuff. How it came to pass. So essentially, I was on the Q92.9 show with Jim Krenn. Mm-hmm. That went away. I was a guest on a show called Funny Money with Matt Wolfarth and Tom Henry on the River's Edge out in Millvale. Just as a guest, just to, shoot the shit, similar to this. And the guy who runs it, Brian Crawford, who basically started this thing in his closet in his room, which is basically a 24-hour radio station of all local music. It's 20. You can play it right now, anything like that, www.riversedgepgh.com. And essentially he came up to me and he goes, Mike, if you have any ideas for a show, just come and approach me and see what I did. Now, at the time, I was really into Bill Burr's podcast, which was this
the Monday morning
podcast,
yeah.
Which I love the idea of just a comedian just pressing record and going off for an hour and just going off on tangents and doing whatever he likes to do. Stream of conscious. I pitched that to Brian. Brian loved it, said, fine, go get it. Now, there was this woman that I had met named Alex Clemens, who was she was a regular at a couple of the mics, and she was a fan of comedy. And through her being at mic after mic, I learned that she had just graduated from broadcast school at Point Park University, and she had also done a video for us at Q92.9 with the Jim Krenn show, which was like a behind the scenes of the commercial that we filmed. So I went up to her and I go, if you're not doing anything, you can be my producer. And for about a month before we actually broadcast the show, we just did run-throughs. We did about a month of just pretend shows. And she turned out to be a great, foil for me, kind of, busting my balls a little bit, which was awesome. And then also on top of that, the River's Edge had a great visual, Facebook Live presence in the program and everything like that. And so it's just kind of grown from there. And so we just continued it. And so the best way I would describe it would be, I believe it's a morning show that Pittsburgh deserves, that should have. I mean, I love DVE morning show, but I think that the Mike Sasson show could work on that kind of medium, that kind of like that morning show medium, because that's what it is. It has segments. It's, it obviously has breaks. It's a visual thing. We have comedians on. Where obviously I'm asking you right now on the air. I would love to have both of you on to go on the show. And one of the best things that's happened recently is something that stems from a terrible thing that happened, was our studio caught on fire.
Oh.
So, we were actually going to go, I was actually going to record a show on a Monday night, because on Tuesday we were not able to. Typically we broadcast and record Monday at 9 a.m. from the studio out in Millvale. And I get a call from my producer, Alex. And this just describes Alex as a human being, just the type of person she is. She calls me up. She goes, "Hey, Mike, are you close to the studio?" And I go, "I'll be there in about 2-3 minutes. Why? What's up?" She goes, "Don't bother. Studio's on fire." Like that kind of monotone.
By the way, studio's on fire.
Whatever. What do you got to do? But
if you buy a McDonald's, just stop there.
Yeah,
dinner's not going to be on.
Yeah, seriously. Like, that cool. So I go up to the thing, and our studio is on fire. And so I'm sitting here going, is this the end of the show? Is this what whatever?
Hell yeah. Like I said, if I came by and fucking work hard, like, hey, and just saw the fire, like, well, it was a good run.
Yeah. But then one of the greatest things that could have happened to us, I mean, obviously we love the Millvale Studios. It was original home, but because we got so much publicity, we were on all the networks, all Post Gazette, Trib, all wrote stories on us. The guy who owns Mr. Smalls reached out to our guy and said, "Hey, we have our old recording studio that used to be like 50 Cent recorded in there, Black Eyed Peas, Anti-Flag, Wiz Khalifa, all these guys recorded in this studio. It's empty because they got a nicer one on the north side. You want it?" And so now we're in the recording studio. We now have our own green room. We have our own, separate kitchen, our own separate studio, all this kind of stuff that's ours. And so now we have and we're connected to Mr. Smalls. So that's a complex. I mean,
won't he do it? That's a common thing in the black community. Won't he do it?
Yeah. shout out to
crazy.
Yeah, shout out to Liz Berlin and the gang. Yeah, I mean, they own Mr. Smalls.
They
down
stepped
there.
up big time.
Yeah, had them on the podcast a little while ago. I mean, and they do a lot in the community.
Oh, and they're buying more up in Millvale. I mean, Millvale is becoming almost that. If you want to see what Lawrenceville was prior to it becoming what it is now, go to Millvale. Yeah, and that's the kind of the vibe it's developing, and we're in the middle of that. And obviously, we did a comedy show, and we were part of the music scene down there. So it's really a lot of fun. So the best way I would describe the show is it's a morning show, but without like the typical terrestrial morning show bullshit.
Yeah, and you can also say fuck on it. So it's cool.
So we like last week we had Ray Zawatney on, great comedian. And Ray, if you guys are comedians, you know that if you talk to him for more than 5 or 10 minutes, eventually he's going to start talking about dicks.
Yeah.
And so we had him as our celebrity dick ranking expert.
Nice.
So we had celebrity dicks, and he ranked them between 1 and 10.
Wow.
So that was last week's show. I don't think we would have been able to get away with that on Q92.9.
No, well, you got to pause all of that on our show.
I was waiting all that. I'm surprised he got through all that before you paused it.
What
I was like, it's some point. That's
I was so taken aback. Like, how the fuck
you didn't know that Ray was a celebrity dick expert?
I don't know what the fuck that is. It sounds like an Instagram model.
So, because tell us what.
It's no good transition.
No. Yeah, no. Just gotta be like.
By the way, Ben Affleck 9.5 because he was Batman, and Jason Segel little low 8 from Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Who the fuck is Jason Segel?
You never saw Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
No, I don't look like their target demographic.
Yeah, he's a weird looking comedic.
But he showed his schlong like 3 times in the movie.
Okay, so it's
that's a count. I guess it's a schlong count that goes along with this.
Damn.
I
don't have a follow up.
Beautiful weather outside.
It's gorgeous. What have you learned while launching this new endeavor? I mean, you were on the Jim Crent Morning Show. And then
I was on the Fan. I was on 660 out in before it became the Whammo. I was on. We had a sports radio show on that as well. I have learned first and foremost that there is a. Go ahead.
Well, let me finish this latest endeavor because you've done all that. But I mean, the thing is that like every new venture, you're looking at like the times and like what you're doing now is, I mean, I guess a culmination of what you've been doing, but it's in a different market. Like, you know what I mean, like, so like, what are you learning through this venture, and how has it helped your career?
First and foremost, I've learned that there is a gigantic and very loyal and very wonderful music scene and comedy scene here in Pittsburgh that we'll support. And it's been amazing. It's been incredible to realize that. I mean, you guys obviously, have realized that before I did about the music scene and just the amount of amazing talent.
So much good.
I mean, we did the highlight of the whole year was the Millvale Music Festival. We hosted the main stage, me and Alex, and the level of talent that was on that stage was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're just sitting there and we're on the side, we're introducing these guys, and they're guys like us. They're working guys, they're in Pittsburgh, but you know what? They get up on stage and they absolutely crush.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there going, well, why is it that I'm a smart guy from Pittsburgh? Why have I never heard of this? Why have I never heard of these people? But you know what? They're probably the same people that go to our comedy shows and go, well, why have I never heard of these guys? And to me, that's what we're here for, to kind of get the word out and all that kind of stuff. So I've learned that. Also, just the simple fact that, you get those little clips from, on Facebook. And one thing that there was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he talks about obviously being the biggest bodybuilder of all time and movie fan, all this kind of stuff. And he said something that I thought was very interesting. He goes, there's no such thing as a self-made man. The whole concept of the self-made man is bullshit. Everybody had help along the way.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've learned recently is how many people, care about great art, care about great comedy, and are willing to help. Just like when our studio went up, Mr. Small stepping in and going from there. And then also now, you've had this now with, you've always have guests on your show. This is the first, the last couple weeks I've had guests on my show. And the one thing that I've found is I haven't gotten to know. I've gotten a maybe I can't make it on that day or something like that, but just a flat, hey, I don't think this is for me. No, I haven't gotten that. And to me, to find out that, hey, there's a community here that supports and is about this, it just makes you so about trying to get the word out so that, we can create a great thing in this town to where it can sustain itself long past all of us leave. So that's what I've learned.
The community, man, we say it time and time again, like, it's about uplifting others, and it's crazy when you uplift others, you tend to, they tend to uplift you as well.
Well, I mean, and one thing, and we were talking about this prior to the show. Last night I played a show out in central Pennsylvania, and which, not a huge Trump fan, but they had a big banner of Trump. And we were sitting in the back, discussing, should we bring it up? Obviously say, this guy's terrible and all this kind of stuff. And I made a decision because I one time heard the Dalai Lama talking about the fact that he says, I would never attend an anti-war rally, but I would go to a pro-peace rally. And the thing that I've made the decision of, and just like you say, uplifting people and everything like that, the only way we're going to defeat hate, the only way we're going to defeat is not to be anti anything, but be pro love.
Yeah,
be pro acceptance.
I'm
be
definitely
pro
punching Nazis. I'm gonna punch
but
them.
The way
if I come into,
if a Nazi comes at you, you got to punch him.
Yeah, I would punch a Nazi. I don't know.
But how do you create a world where Nazis don't exist?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in tandem.
Nazis. I don't think you can create. So I
think you do it in tandem.
I don't know. Like the world. When I think about the world, I think those type of groups, those type of organizations will always exist because there are those type of people. There are individuals who will promote the ideals of what's most beneficial to them from the standpoint of demographic than the world itself. So can you eliminate Nazis? No. Can you deal with a Nazi that come in your face? Hell,
if someone comes in your face, but my thing is I would rather create a world to where, you're going to have broken toys. You're going to have people that are just, they're wrong. And it's just, you make 1,000 cheeseburgers, one of them's going to taste like shit, but you're okay. The thing is that we have to create a world to where they have no power. They have no, that.
Yeah. My thing is I would like to get to a world where it was like 1,000 to like one bad cheeseburger or whatever. The thing about these Nazis is that they represent a larger superstructure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there is systemic racism going on. There's a lot more people that are quiet about their racism and hold powerful positions and are not in the streets screaming. So every one of those Nazis that are out there screaming the wild, like, pro, this or whatever, represents probably about 1,000 other motherfuckers that quietly are like, or complacent as fuck. So I my thing is I want to work towards a world that, does produce more, good people. I do want to eliminate them. And I do believe love works in that regard. But also, that motherfucker, he's representing those 1,000 people. I'm going to punch him in the face. That's 1,000 people for one punch. That's a nice return on your knuckles.
I would love to have some sort of study or statistics on how many of those individuals how many of those neo-Nazis were active or vocal about it prior to this. I mean, because are these all vocal individuals? These people who found out about this shit and was like, yo, let me join that now. Like that we have this groundswell, this movement where we can have this sort of thing.
I think they're always been around, but the only thing
is this news,
the new administration has definitely encouraged their brazenness.
Yeah, they've been Nazis.
Well, no, I'm not saying that they haven't been Nazis, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of under the cover, like there's a lot of shit that people aren't necessarily willing to promote as far as the neo-Nazi shit. Now, they may have their ideals, they may identify in that way, but they wasn't vocal about it, till that particular protest came about. I'm wondering how many of them were like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that even with all the outspoken ones, they're still a small, like a lot of people like to make the argument that like they're the fringe. And it's like, oh, these are just a couple of nuts, but in the grand scheme of things. And then I looked at a statistic that said that a high school dropout as a white person has the equivalent wealth of a college graduate as a black. You know what I mean? So like when you're that is clear. Systemic. I mean, you're looking at a country that was built up, the wealth of the white folks were built up on slavery or whatever, right? And then you have these like, and I heard the argument that like, oh, they don't want to be violent. They just want to like separate from, whatever. And it's like, oh, so now that you have all the wealth built off of us and you got it securely in your hands, now you just want to dismiss the rest of them and just keep that there. You know what I mean? Like, so, that whole like fringe society or whatever, it's like, it's not fringe if, again, you have statistic after statistic after statistic of how systematically you are oppressing these people.
Well, the thing is, though, from their perspective, which is the fucked up, idiotic perspective, but from their perspective, when they sit there, here's my thought on it. The reason why it's going to be tough to get rid of these guys is because it's very tough to get rid of losers in society. And that's who these people are. They're the losers. They're people that, aren't getting what they feel that they should get out of life. And so really, especially in a capitalistic society, when they're going to be winners and losers, there's going to be losers. Now, in their mind, they sit there and they look at the fact that we had an African-American president, or they turn on TV and they see African-Americans, strong enough to stand up and protest the national anthem and be NFL players, or stand up and be comedians and be, all this kind of stuff. They sit there and they look at that as they're losing something.
Yeah.
When in reality, they're not losing shit.
Well, I think that's where it comes down to. In my opinion, like it's like these motherfuckers are as American as a lot of the ideals of America we have. It's like they didn't come out of nowhere. Like America was built on these ideals. Yeah. So to all of a sudden eradicate them, that's not going to happen. You're not just going to get rid of that train of thought.
They're preaching the word of the forefathers.
Yeah,
let's be very clear. The forefathers wrote this shit while they owned slaves.
That's why they have fucking statues.
When you have Nazis out here going like black should be, lesser than, they're preaching the word of the forefathers.
Motherfuckers was out there like hate Jews, and Jewish people sit at the crib like, wait, what the fuck we do? We ain't even doing that to nobody. Like, what the fuck this come from?
Well, how about the fact that Donald Trump, his son-in-law, who is basically running the entire thing, is actually Jewish.
Yeah, fuck all them. Like,
so I mean, like you sit there, it's
contradiction. There's contradiction in the rhetoric at all turns
because it's stupid rhetoric. Yeah. It's not well
at all turns. Is going to be contradiction. Like we will put on our statues, bring us your weary, your poor, whatever, and then we have these groups that feel like it's American to eradicate these groups. So fuck all them.
We'll preach, turn the other cheek, and drop bombs.
Oh, what? Hell yeah! So. Fuck all of them, you know what I mean? Like, and to keep the conversation light, I will ask you though, how is it to navigate that room as a comedian, how do you what percentage do you take to navigate that sort of thing?
I always try to find the common humanity.
Okay.
Like I remember one time I was with another comedian and we were at a Harley Davidson dealership. And this guy had basically, the comedian had only worked basically city rooms. Like, you know, and so he's sitting there pacing because these guys, you know, Harley Davidson riders. I mean, they got like the bandanas and they're wearing camo and all this kind of stuff. And he's sitting there going, I don't know what to say to these people. And I look at him and I go, think they ever fucked? And he's like, yeah. I go, well, you can talk about that.
They fucking the nastiest. I go,
they ever been in love? They ever been pissed? They ever been sad? They ever been drunk? They ever gotten in trouble? Yeah. We'll talk about that.
And they've done all of this wearing leather.
Yes.
Like, that's what you say.
Yes. And what happened was he went up on stage, he focused on the common humanity, and he went from there.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is when you sit there and say, okay, how do you relate to someone? Fundamentally, we all have the same fundamental experiences. Now, granted, if you come from different cultures or different, your dad's rich, your dad's poor, you never met your dad, whatever, you all have different, experiences that way. But fundamentally, we've all been in love. We've all tried to get acceptance. We've all tried to, we've all had frustrations. And really what we do as comedians is we sit there and, like, I had the great comedian that's been a teacher of mine, that's awesome, Matt Wolfarth. One of the first things he ever said to me when he said there says, how do you write comedy? He goes, find the frustration. And what are you frustrated about? Like, okay, you two have kids. So when you get up in front of a group of people, yeah, they might look different than you, but you sit there and say, hey, I have kids. This is what I have found frustrating about having kids. And you find that commonality. You find the common humanity.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been a situation where, and being in Pittsburgh, being a stand-up comic in Pittsburgh, like, I will walk into rooms where I don't look like anyone in the audience, and my whole thing is talk about my life. Like, I talk about my life and what I'm going through, because even if you're not going through it the exact way I did, you're going through it in some degree. And what's funny about me is my perspective on it. Like, I'm showing, when I go up there and I'm talking to the audience, I'm talking about my perspective. I'm not here to, if there was a Trump flag on the wall of a club that I'm not trying to promote or disavow Trump. No, I'm going to give my perspective on what's going on in the world, what's going on. If the Trump situation comes up, I'm going to give my perspective on that. Now, if you like, yo, fuck you for how you feel about Trump, that's how you feel. Like, if I'm doing a room that has the Trump shit up, that ain't the biggest room in the world. Like, that's not going to make or break my career. Like, I'm not going to a comedy club and they got a Trump banner on the wall. So, that's just how I feel. But it is like, it almost feels like you kind of have to comment on Trump nowadays. Like, you almost have to have a Trump joke. But I don't always want to talk about that shit.
I mean, I've avoided it in most of. I actually had like presidential, like I got bits that I do whatever, and I've got some political, and I've had jokes or whatever, and I might tell them like online or whatever. But like in an audience, it just feels too like cheap of a humor for me to go right into like, especially like in that atmosphere. Like, I will still, for me, like you said, it's find the commonality, and I still like I said, I look at the Richard Pryors, the Eddie Murphys, the Chris Rocks, who were able to, be, black in these spaces and outspoken, but also finding the commonalities in our lives. You know what I mean? Like, so like, when me and Ed get on, like, we're not like discarding our blackness while we're on stage or whatever. And we will still talk about the issues, but you can talk about the issues without just going to a straight, like, Trump joke. Cause it's like,
Yeah. One of the reminds me of a story. Jerry Seinfeld, obviously very good friends with Chris Rock. And one of the things that he commented on, Chris Rock, obviously his initial, HBO special, Bring the Pain, was obviously legendary. And one thing that we went up to Chris Rock afterwards, after seeing it, he goes, the bit that really got me was he talked about the difference between white porn and black porn. White, like Playboy and the nudie mags that he grew up with in the 70s. And he talked about the fact that, obviously the standard jokes like, oh, the beautiful airbrushed, white women, and then the black women that had like the, the gunshot wound or the strip and all this kind of stuff. And what Jerry Seinfeld said to him was, he sat there and goes, the thing about that got me was, it was the first time that I had ever realized in my own head that, yeah, you had your own whatever, and you didn't like it. You weren't a fan of it. It brought to the humanity of it. And I think that's where the Chris Rocks and everything. Chris Rock with his famous bit, that the battle between black people and N-words. What he was trying to say to people was, if a person is acting ignorant, we feel the same way that everyone does against people that are acting ignorant. And that was the genius of the bit. It was him going to an audience and saying, no, we're with now the problem he had was eventually the racists of the world said, well, this is why we don't win. And he
that's
said
the line that you walk.
Yeah.
Well, you can't there's no way to combat that though.
Yeah,
you can't, it's hard to, like, you can't combat a racist person's rhetoric because they feel that way. Like, you're not gonna change nobody's mind. Like, that's one thing I've learned in life. You're not changing somebody's mind. No. Yeah, I mean, like, even if you arguing with your woman, your wife, your girlfriend, and you say, I don't like that you did this, you're not changing her mind on that.
You're
let me ask
asking them if they're willing to motherfucking
like,
change the behavior.
Yeah, that's all you doing. They gonna change their behaviors for the betterment of y'all, but they still feel like they should be able to do this.
Exactly.
Like,
but let me ask you a question. I've worked a ton of rooms with you both, and do you feel that when you get up there and you show that you're intelligent and that you're confident and that you are good people and everything like that, and you walk in and you obviously every room there's going to be racist, stupid motherfuckers. Now, do you feel that you've ever made it to where someone has to think like, oh my God, how did I lock with it? You don't think that you can change
Not at
that?
all. Here's what you get as a black comedian when you go into rooms where you're like, you know what, I don't know how they feel. You almost, like, me personally, I don't feel like I've changed anyone's mind on the race. Now, they may have changed how they felt about me because I'm very urban in the way I dress. I'm very urban in my approach and in how I speak or whatever. But a lot of times it also kind of just feels like, I don't know if it's almost like I'm a gesture, like back in the day, like I'm here for your entertainment type of shit. Like it can feel like that because you get these weird compliments every now and again. You get weird gestures. You get someone trying to slide you. Like, for example, the night of my accident, apparently there was a heckler there.
There was a heckler. He was drunk as fuck. They were about to kick him out, and then he just he didn't know. He wasn't cognizant of it. But Ed went up there, and he was Ed Bailey as he is, and dude was like, yeah, rah, 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 and then just walked up on the stage and handed him $100. Like,
now, a lot of people will take that as like a huge compliment. As a black man, it do feel kind of weird with that. I
feel like statistically, 99.9% of the world has to take it as a compliment because you're feeding them for like a month.
Well, no. If you feel like you feed me for a month with $100, then you don't think much of me. I mean, I got a family, and it's like, yeah, here, thanks for that. Thanks for the laughs, kid. Like, giving you $100. Like,
I can see how you take it like that.
You feel me? Like, it can almost feel like that in certain rooms where it's just like, nah, I don't necessarily care for your kind too much, but you're a good one. Like, that type of shit. You know what I mean? Like, you're one of the good ones. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily change your perception.
But I think we're also getting into something in terms of how comedians, especially when you walk into backwards communities, sometimes I think comedians are sometimes perceived differently because if you read like the history of comedy until basically like the late 60s, early 70s, being a comedian was not viewed as being a very being an entertainer was not viewed as being very highly. It was the money eventually we got.
Let's be very clear. Even today, it ain't now. Like,
nobody walk into a bar and be like, I'm a comedian. Bitch is like, ooh, I love you. Nah.
Women will sleep with you despite the fact that you're a comedian.
They look at that follower count.
Yeah. There are no comedy groupies. Like, the comedy groupie is like very. There's the smallest of pools.
Kevin Hart took them all.
You could be a very novice, terrible guitar player and get way more pussy than a motherfucker that makes a good living day to day. If he's not a household name, that little guitar nigga that could just like bing, 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 and like with a hold a chord is getting way more pussy than that motherfucker's making $80,000 a year.
My theory on
corporate gigs in comedy.
You want my theory on that? Is because comedy works on the brain,
and we're dealing with words,
and music works on the heart.
Yeah, we're dealing with words. So everything we have to create the feel with words, and it's hard to create the feel with words because you have to interpret it the way that I want you to interpret it. I have to lead you to that level of interpretation. A sad instrumental is a sad instrumental.
Well, see, it's also where it's a lot of self-deprecation. It's a lot of you're putting yourself out there so other people can laugh. And that's not particularly like you listen to songs. I mean, like they're like you said. I mean, it's hard, but it's like they're like talking about her, making her feel better, or like rap. Like comedy is almost their anti-rap. Like I mean, you're not braggadocious. You're not because too much bragging on a comedy stage is like I mean, they come to laugh at you.
That's why the Usher's Confessions album was such a mega album because it was so introspective. It was so like, damn, like this man is really like he was hurt by hurting someone.
No, I would sit there and say
Usher,
that. Now, I think there's a different. I think as a comedian, it helps to be vulnerable. It helps to open up, but I don't think that's a sign of weakness. Now, maybe they view that as a sign. I think that is a sign of
it doesn't lend itself to them being into you.
They're not going to hear you talk about how small your dick is or how like you're broke or like any of the like you said, it's rooted in tragedy. They're not going to hear you like rant about the shit that makes you mad and be like, you know what? Oh my god, the way he's talking about his car broke down and he hates GM. I can't wait to sleep with it. Like that's not a reaction.
He ain't got no food in this refrigerator. I want to go over there. I want to bring that man a loaf of bread. That ain't happening, bro.
I hear you. Oh, you're not explaining this to me, right? I mean, I've been out there. I've been out there with you guys for 5 years.
We like country music singers with no music.
Yeah,
that's what we are.
Yeah, if we would, I feel like if we would at least say what we said with some music behind it, then they could at least get lost and they wouldn't even give a fuck what we're saying because they'd be like,
they'd be mystified by the instrumental.
Yeah, like, we don't have any instrumental.
What I need is a dude who could come up to me and approach women in bars with the instrumental. Then it don't matter what I say to her. Just what song? Like I'm gonna read her. I'm like, all right, look at her body language. I'm looking at the drink she getting. Which okay, well she went. All right, we gonna play this instrumental. We gonna go over there. Say, hey babe, what's your number? I'm not gonna call you after we have sex now.
Yo, you're basically the Weeknd, man. The Weeknd can say the most wildest fucking shit.
Can he not?
Because
though?
he says it in falsetto. They eat it up.
He
like,
not?
Oh my god, you could have stuffed me full of drugs and
fornicating,
never call me again. Like,
asshole.
Yo, he is, and that's what comedy is. Take away all the falsetto and the beats and all that, and just say that shit. Speak the Weeknd lyrics to a woman.
He's my hero.
Speak the Weeknd lyrics to a woman and not have the cops called on you.
He's my hero, man. He admits crime, misogyny, fornication, all that.
Everything.
Like,
and if you were a comic,
infidelity, like all that shit. And it's just like, man, that song sounds good as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
He made a song, Go Tell Your Friends About It. Basically like, yo, I'm going to hit you off and then go give me a referral to your friends.
Yeah.
And women's like singing that, like, go tell your friends about it. Like, I'm like, damn, yo.
He told the chick, like, make me remember you, like, you know what I mean? He was like, I'm basically going to forget your name unless you do something spectacular tonight. Other than that, you're just going to be in the long line of women that I've plowed in the last 30 hours.
By the way, that last one, that was a beautiful lyric. Especially when you use the word plowed.
Plowed, yeah. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, so we lost 7 listeners on that comment alone. But
I don't plow women. I till the soil.
I till the soil.
God,
I irrigate
damn, it
the
just
soil.
gets worse when you saying it with words. Like you say it as a regular person, it doesn't matter how you try to massage it. It's bad.
Yeah. I mean,
I throw
you gotta
fertilizer on the field.
If you do it in the Boys to Men though, if you do it in the Boys to Men and you just drop it like, baby, I'm gonna plow you.
Here's the thing about Boys to Men: they always wear cardigans, and I don't know, man. You can't really pick up women in cardigans. Like this is
not today.
Do you think that Boys to Men back in the '90s? I'll make love to you. Shit, how many people walking around here because of I made love to you?
But how many groupies did they have? It just feels like.
Well, first off, when you're rich, you get.
They're like one of my.
Still got groupies.
I don't know, man. They're one of my favorite all-time groups. I've never heard a chick talk about, ooh, that dude Wanye.
Man,
nobody's ever said that.
The deep voice guy. I bet you he got.
They
something.
kicked his ass out the group too because he was getting too many women.
Yeah, he was. I bet you.
And he wasn't singing. He was, baby,
girl.
I'm sorry. Like he's just getting on the track, just talking. He was like, all right. oh, y'all did this. All right, let me just throw this in there. They talk for 30 seconds.
They can go into any Philly bar and be guaranteed on some shit.
Yes.
Not in the cardigan.
Who gets more pussy
In the cardigan. They got to have a cardigan that has like a bee on it.
Didn't they just do like a CVS commercial or
Yes.
shit like that? Like,
They also did the Pirates game last year, so a lot of things aren't going right for them. But okay, who gets more pussy in Philadelphia? Hall & Oates or Boys to Men?
Boys to Men. What do you?
No, Hall & Oates. I think Hall & Oates.
I don't know, man. Well, I don't know. I would maybe because of the majority of Europeans that are in Philly, but
Watch out, boys.
Are they still getting it up at this point?
The blonde one, yeah.
Yeah.
Oates, maybe not.
I don't know who the hell those people are.
You know the songs.
Yeah, I probably know the songs. I didn't invest in the individuals. Keep it real.
It's the difference between growing up in Pittsburgh and growing up in Cleveland. I knew Dave knew who Hall & Oates was.
East Cleveland, not just because there's some parts of Cleveland that know exactly who these motherfuckers are. East Cleveland, no, they would never play it at our dances. Have you ever listen? If you go to a high school party in East Cleveland, like a school dance, you would just be like, "Yo, how the fuck did they condone this music? Like, we not playing no edited versions, no nothing. Like, we just in there playing all the ratchet shit."
Well, that's what I mean. I went to a school that was like court order desegregated in '82. So like the folks that I went to school with, that's where I heard a lot of this was the.
It was all the 3-6 Mafia, all that shit, all the Project, all that with the curse words. And guess what? That English teacher, that new teacher, yeah, she was DJing the motherfucker.
That's how she's making rent.
She brought the music from the college party right to the classroom. That's what we talking about.
And at Fox Chapel, we actually had Boys to Men actually perform live. No, I'm kidding.
I could imagine that y'all had that budget.
We probably did.
Y'all had that budget. There was no live. Don't let me get in that. Just tell them where they can find you because I'm starting getting pissed about high school.
Mike Sasson. So just find me on Facebook, The Mike Sasson Show, MikeSasson. Instagram, SoundCloud, Google Play. If you just Google me, Mike Sasson, and Michael Sasson, because Michael Sasson is a male model out of Israel. That's no bullshit. He is.
You just got him like 12 followers.
If you Google Michael Sasson, you'll get a male model and a dick judge.
No, that's Razor Watney.
Yeah, but it'll pull together at some point. I mean, that's how Google works. I don't know if you know that or not.
Do we know? Did the guy who invented Google go to Slippery Rock?
I don't know. Guy who invented Google went to like Point Park or some shit like that.
He got 1.7 billion.
He got 1.74.
See,
that was his asking price. They let the people know where they can find us.
If you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, and Google Play under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod.
Hey, we want to thank our guest, Michael Sasson, the Israeli male model.
Yeah.
Is that what he is?
Yeah.
So we had an Israeli male model on here who occasionally tells jokes and rates dicks. I don't know what the fuck that means. As always, Drinking Partners is the crew. Epicast is the family, and we out of here.